all right, how can I bend these rules? You know, like I'm in the pub, but I'm on a call.
Yeah.
It's like it's work-life balance gone a bit mad. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll start this episode in unusual fashion, just to get this out of the way, because I'm probably going to forget by 7:30, and then I'm going to realise that I'm 20 minutes away from Cavani netting a hat-trick, and then I've forgotten altogether. So I just wanted to thank a few people, as it's the Christmas special. I just thought I'd thank some of our... we haven't really got a nickname, Drew. We it's like Design Truthinators or something like that. They're just people, aren't they? So we just want to thank some...
I think they've got to find that themselves. I think they've really got to self-nominate.
So if you've got a good name for as a listener, then
don't make yourselves or us sound too wankerish. Other than that, go ahead.
We've got Clive G. Cheers, Clive. Clive is actually the guy that's told us about Patreon, and we're going to come on to Patreon at some point. So blame Clive if you don't like. If we're talking about something half an hour in and you don't like the sound of it, then don't blame us, blame Clive. Emma, of course, we have to thank, who was a big part of some of the early episodes we did.
Cheers, Emma.
Design Truth, and was amazingly valuable to us in terms of editing and kind of the post-production stuff, when quite frankly at the time we didn't have a clue. So really appreciate that, Emma. All of the guests that we've had on, and we've now got one on for the second time, so it's Wynn's second coming onto the pod. But we've also had others. I won't name them all, but thanks to everyone that has come on. A few people that turn up to our webinars religiously and they're there all the time. So kind of Seb Wetherall, Claire Thompson, Hannah Petts, Kate over at the Uni of Brighton, John Hewitt, Nick Chubb, Roland Bowl, Dan Barnes, Ellie White, Hans Ramsden, Adam Stone, Gareth McNeil, David Robinson, Martin Miller, and James and Ollie from the Cardware Shop. Those are people I've written down. If I've forgotten any of you, then just sorry. So thank you, and welcome to the Christmas special. So at the time, it's in classic kind of like Jules Holland style. This isn't live. We're not recording this live on Christmas Day. It's like the 2nd of December. But how is everyone? Are we all okay?
Very good, thank you.
Good stuff. So we've got a couple of people with us today, Drew, or Dr. Drew Kendrick, as it says in this Zoom meeting. So we've got two voices and faces you'd have seen before if you know Design Truth, or we've been here since the start. So we've got Jordan Burns here, and Jordan's actually just picked up a new job today, so he's in good spirits. Yeah. And he was our you don't need an Eames chair to be a designer kind of speaker, which went down really well. And then we've also got Wynn. Wynn, you're back. How does it feel to be back?
Emotional.
Yeah. Is that it? Just emotional?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think I rambled. I think it was the second podcast.
Yeah, you were literally kind of guinea pig number 2. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in hindsight, you listen to your own. Yeah, not the whole recording, but I had a bit of a click through. I was like, oh, I was rambling a little bit. So I'm gonna try and be minimal tonight.
And you know what's a monster to edit down. I'll tell you what.
And you know what's worse? We now record video with, so it's double bubble now. So you're feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
thanks.
So yeah, thanks for obviously joining us, and thanks for your positive words as well. I'd say I hate to be a bit cliche and a bit cringy, but you've been there since day one. So thanks for that. How has the year been then for everyone? Are we all okay? Are we all sane? Are we all kind of well?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's been both. Career-wise, it was okay. Then it went really terrible. Then it got amazing, and it kind of stayed very, very good. And that's all I'm going to talk about for right
now. Yeah. What have you made of the pod this year then, Drew? Because you've been here since the start. If we're looking back, what have you made of it all?
I think it was my idea, wasn't it, Brad?
It was your idea,
yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? It's just been really good fun. Yeah. I really wasn't sure what to expect, to be honest. And it kind of, people started saying nice things. I was like, oh shit, well, let's do a couple more until no one cares. And I think probably, I know we used to have a lot of conversations, but do you know what? There's like 50 people listen to this one, or however many it was. So like,
Yeah.
I don't think I know that many people, and I certainly haven't mentioned it in front of that many people. So like, people are finding it, and they're coming back. So it was you know, not to be too self-congratulatory about it. It was just that we thought that there was, it was that we made the thing that we wanted to listen to. And,
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
That's been the kind of the thing behind it the whole time, is that if you start thinking about what's going to play well, what do people want to hear us talk about or ask questions about, I don't think we can know that. We don't have any more hands on deck than the ones that you can see on screen or listen to. So, you know, we can't do a load of marketing and we can't do a load of publicity. So if people are happening upon it, then that's cool.
Yeah.
It's just very, very cool and gratifying, and yeah, it means a lot to us, I think.
Yeah, cool. I had a look the other day, and we're on something like it's about 850 to 900 downloads a month is kind of where we're at. Not spent a pound on marketing or Instagram ads or anything like that. And it has genuinely been from just messaging people saying, "We've done this thing. Can you listen to it?" And that is how it's no more just about, I suppose, and that's what design is about. It's about building relationships with people and just saying, "Hey, we've done this stuff. What do you think? You can be honest with us if you think it's really shit, and then we'll move on from it." But yeah,
I think the biggest thing for me, but I think the thing that people probably listen to regularly and come back is obviously not going to be you and I.
No.
Because once you've heard one episode of that, you're like,
oh, they don't care about us, really. It's the guest. It's the guest. It's not you.
It's obviously like the names that you've been able to pull in, I think are just mega. I think you've done an amazing job of, you know, you said building relationships. That's a large part. I mean, that's essentially the essence of what you do. More than what we do, because often like we're just sat inside sketching and not going out and reaching out to people, and that's what you bring, and that's why we've had interesting people come and talk about, you know, their perspectives. So we just go, "Oh man, that's amazing! Yeah, cool."
I won't ask you to name all the guests we've had in order.
Good morning, that's right.
So I won't ask you that. But what about you guys?
Mike Jordan? That's the one I remember.
What about you guys? How's your year been?
I'd say, you know, there's a lot of negativity around in the news and stuff. I'm like, I'm either an optimist or I've been lucky, but I think my year's been pretty good. Like, I've quite enjoyed this year. It's gone pretty well, but obviously I think the hardest bit isn't going to be what we've just been through. It's going to be when the economy starts dipping, work's going to dry up, and that's where it's really going to hit people hard, especially designers in industry and stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to get worse, but for me personally, it's not been too bad. And I think, you know, humanity's been through worse stuff than having to stay indoors for 8 weeks or however long it was.
It's really not the end of the world, is it? Well, it might be, but it could have been a lot worse. I mean, there are obviously some people that will be listening to this that have been in a real shit situation. I do feel for them, but for most people, I think it's been all right, isn't it? I don't think it's been that devastating. Or am I really selfish by saying?
I don't think you can possibly. You can't see other people's experiences. This is it. Like, so for me, it's been fine. It hasn't been that different. No pub crawls for a year. That's not ideal. No five-a-side. Not much mountain biking because they keep closing Wales. Like, it's right there. Let me go and ride. I'm not allowed. So yeah, there's frustrations, but I mean, yeah, you probably don't have to go far to find someone who's really struggling.
Oh yeah, of course.
But, yeah, hands up. I'm not. So I'm not gonna. I can't pretend that I know what that's like.
Yeah. And what about you, Win? Because you're London. You should be out and about now. Tier 2, substantial meal, and all that. Why are you talking to us?
Get the Scotch egg. Scotch egg and 8 pints.
Surprise. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, touch wood. Everything's been fine. lucky enough to work for a company that was essentially cloud-based anyway in terms of what we were doing, everything. So in terms of moving to the situation, it was literally pack up the laptop on that Monday and off you go. But yeah, I mean, I can empathise that a lot of people have had it hard. I can imagine if you've got supply chain, you've got clients, and all they've got to do is basically stop paying and everything changes. I can imagine particularly probably in agencies, it could be quite difficult. But as well, maybe agencies are also the best way out of this situation for a lot of people as well. And potentially rather than building teams, it might be, well, actually, we need to get a new product off the road to get out of this. We'll go to an agency, give them a brief, give them some money, and develop that product, and it starts, being in a positive way. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I tend to not listen to the news. I kind of choose when I want to kind of look at the BBC website. But in general, it's frustrating. There's a little island called, or two islands called New Zealand that have been living a normal life since May last year, and you just kind of go, it's about decision making, isn't it? And everything could be a lot different depending on that decision making. But let's not get political about this.
Yeah, I'd hate to go political on here, because it doesn't matter what way you go, you're always going to go upset someone, aren't you? So it's just one of those topics where you may as well just not talk about it, because you're just going to end up opposing.
And that, Brad, is the decision making that's got us into a second lockdown at the end of December.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And I probably agree with all three of you, but I'm the one that has to defend the comments at the end of the day. So I'll just I'll park anything.
I think back to kind of just chatting just quickly about the podcast itself. I think you both done a terrific job. I think that you get a gut feeling, don't you? I think I feel as a designer, that something is going to work. There's a problem, and you think you've got a solution. You go, I think this has got legs. Even before you actually create it, the concept is there. I'm very critical of podcasts, massively. But the thing is, most of my podcasts, I'm literally lying in bed listening to them. I find them quite relaxing, to be honest, and they're an easy listen. I think the kind of British culture of industrial, traditional product design is the types of people. We're all of a similar type of tone, and I think it makes the whole experience nice to listen to. Whereas other ones in different cultures, I personally found quite difficult to listen to, or they've gone in different tangents in UX and brand and other things. So, personally, I was kind of thinking about it before. I think what you've done a little bit in terms of finding a problem, got a solution, and then the way that you've got all these people to kind of swarm around this as an idea, it feels like we're kind of, or you guys have done it, but everyone's involved. It's kind of like a bit of punking the kind of beta establishment or movement. I mean, there's no offense to the people that have done it.
No. And we've had them on as well.
Yeah. But what I think it is, it's about kind of, some people are kind of going, let's just go and do this and make it happen. And I think that's the, hats off to you guys for doing it. There was nothing to really stop you. It's get a microphone, get a Zoom. I know there's more to it, but in terms of the core content, it's like-minded people kind of, we don't get to network a lot of the time, industrial product designers, because we're all over the country. A lot of us are competitors, and it's very difficult. So I think in a weird way, it does feel like we're kind of socializing, even though we're not all in a room together drinking beers, but there's a nice way of kind of going, it's so nice to listen about somebody else who thinks the same way as me or is taking the same problem. So I think in general, it's absolutely brilliant production. I think you've done a fantastic job. So you both should be really proud of yourselves in terms of where...
We'll pay you later for that.
That means an awful lot to me. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Again, as a designer that I know you and I don't know each other personally, but I'm familiar with your work and have a whole lot of respect for your work. So it means an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to you earlier, Drew, and I was saying that I was talking to a client of mine. I won't name him just in case I have to go through some sort of fucking PR approval to get it in, which is a bane in my life at the minute. But they were saying to me, there's one of the probably the biggest agencies in the UK, and even Europe. And they told me they actually have our podcast on in the studio. They actually have it on whilst they're all working. And I told Drew that earlier, and he nearly fell off his chair. So, so yeah, we still don't. It's been such a weird experience for me, Wim, because I don't actually work in design in the sense of I'm not a designer. So to have, we kind of, although this would be quite ironic for because I know lots of people talk about recruiters in quite a bad light, and I think from what I can establish, I'm a little bit of the exception to the rule, but I've always found that the kind of the relationship between like a recruiter and maybe like a designer is there's that kind of, it's not really on an equal footing. It's almost like we're this kind of auxiliary kind of supplier. But I found through this is that it's taken me quite a long time, to be honest, to kind of accept that people actually want to listen to us. That's just something that I'm still going through. I don't know if this feels like this kind of X Factor moment, Drew, when we're going to judges' houses, but it kind of feels a bit like that, where you're still trying to process that people actually quite like this. And that's just something I'm still in this kind of, I don't really get why, but they do, so we'll just keep going. But that's where I'm at most of the time anyway.
I think the other aspect as well is that it's a bit kind of, again, if you think about the kind of a punking or some kind of garage band, it feels like a kind of someone doing something.
We're like a rebellious teenager, Drew.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's design is in the nature, and I think one thing I'd like to kind of say, if it's a way of keeping it, is trying to keep it raw. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think in terms of, there's that famous kind of third album that always, ruins a band, whether you're Oasis or Nirvana or Guns N' Roses, any of these bands. It's kind of just kind of going, how do we keep it? Just keep it cool, because otherwise I think it becomes different. And
I think
it's the people who come on it and have those conversations. I think that's it. It's the conversational nature of people who are working in the thing, rather than being told by textbooks, or being told by lecturers, or being told by I don't know, our higher ups, our betters, our previous generations, whatever it is. It's no disrespect to any of those at all. It's just, this is something different. Conversations with people that you don't work with, but who are your peers otherwise.
Yeah. What has been? Go on. Sorry, John. You go.
I was just going to touch on the authenticity and keeping it raw and just a conversational style. All the design podcasts I've tried to listen to are just dog shit because they're so overproduced. They idolize like individual designers, they speak to them like some kind of celebrity, and it's always annoyed me because it's made design feel like super elite, and like I've always looked at myself and am I actually a designer? But what you guys do is just talk to people on a real level. And what you said, Win, about socializing, it does feel like you're getting that experience because it's so casual, and you can just go, actually, these are just people. You know what I mean? And then it made my view of the industry better because you just realize everyone's just like me. Everyone's just people. You can just speak to people normally. You don't have to like.
I don't think many are like you, Jordan.
No.
Well, maybe I'm like.
You're very special.
Yeah. But no, it's good, and it's probably the only design podcast I would listen to. Everything else, mostly American stuff, is all just
it's. I don't know about you, Drew, but I find some of what we do, it's never because there is one podcast in the US that you might be referring to, and it's very like they kind of put these people on almost like a pedestal, and it's like maybe because they've worked for the big companies, and it's like, how are you so special? Whereas I think if you listen back to some of what we've done, Drew, we actually we don't necessarily like disagree during the episodes, but it's not just this one way kind of dialogue where it's like, yeah, I completely agree with what you just said there for an hour. There is a little bit of kind of like, well, this is my perspective, and then this is your perspective, which I think is healthy, where it's just not just, design education's just really not good, is it? Like for an hour, like there's like a push and pull factor, which I think people can relate to a bit more.
I think credit to some of the guests, like, because we sort of, I mean, I don't know whether they'd all, I know that they hadn't listened to any of the previous episodes, where we, including Win, on this and sort of been berating the state of the of academia and the transition into industry. And then we had some conversations, some of them on the podcast as well, with people from academia, and you know, presented them with that sort of with our position. And yeah, I mean, we're not going to like it's documented. You can't then go, oh no, you're right, actually. Yeah, no, everything's cool.
Yeah, opinions do change over time. That's a good segue, because we did a couple of months ago, people would assume that we did a survey. So we did the first, I don't know, like the Design Truth industry-wide survey, where it was like, how's your year actually been? So not this kind of like Instagram filtered version of your year that you've put up, but what's it actually been like? And we're not going to sit here today and just kind of say, oh, so-and-so said this. That's not really what it's about.
Can we do that?
Oh, I mean, I'd love to, but I'd probably get into quite a lot of trouble. But one of the questions on the survey was, is design education fit for industry? What do you think the percentage was of, or do you think it was mainly yes, or do you think it was mainly no? What do you think?
I'd like to think it was mainly no.
Okay.
I'd say it's probably split, actually.
Okay. Drew?
Well, I sort of no.
Yeah. But go on, what's your answer?
Well, no, my general takeaway from all of this, everything we've said, is if you've got an industrial design course or product design or any kind of design course, and there's an industrial placement, that is going to be so much more worthwhile to you than one that doesn't. That's it. I don't care how good you come away with sketching ability or knowing the right nomenclature and all of that sort of thing. There's books. Buy a shit ton of books and catch up. But I mean, if you're in uni as well, the one thing that I think I missed out on is, it probably did get said to me, but I didn't take on board, is when you're not in lectures and actively doing things, this is your time in your career where you learn about design. Go and read. Go and, like, every other course you're going to do that isn't just colouring in. Yeah, pens are expensive. We don't need them anymore. I know, Keyshot's expensive, but they've got that in, I don't know, in the university facilities. The thing you need to spend your money on is just a shit ton of design books. Get the audio books. Don't bother reading them. Just get the audio books. Buy anything. I don't know. We've probably all got our favourites, but there's a couple of critical ones that virtually everyone's read, but they maybe didn't read them, hands up, both of them, until about 10 years after they graduated and went, I don't know a fucking thing about this.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I'm clueless. And people keep talking to me about, I don't know, Malcolm Gladwell or Don Norman. I'm like,
mate, I couldn't agree more with that, because through uni, every time I was in a lecture, I was like drinking, playing rugby, not doing anything but not work. And then when I graduated, I spent the 2 to 3 years of my career doing that. Like, I was like relearning. It was like doing another degree while I was learning, because I wasted so much time. But that's something I always say to students, is use that time valuably. Like, if you've got an hour lecture in a day, don't just do nothing for the rest of the 23 hours.
Just put ID cast on, surely. Just put ID
exactly,
cast
yeah,
on.
learn.
I think as well it depends on different. Like, it's a really broad question, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not a question where you can give like a definitive answer to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for example, I mean, there's different ways of looking at it. I mean, I think, I'm massively impressed by these graduates coming through in the last probably 5 years in particular. Like, whether it's Gen Z, I'm not up with my marketing demographics, but from a point of view of that group of people, they're phenomenally professional. They're LinkedIn to the max. They are websites. They massively impressed with the culture. And it depends on what university you've gone through and what the culture is there. So I think it's a difficult conversation. There is actually, you mentioned Don Norm before. He's got a. I'm a bit worried about it, but I've tried to be part of it at the same time. So there's a thing called futureofdesigneducation.org. I put my name down, said, please, can I be a contributor to this? But it's an interesting one, because I don't know where that's going to go. Like, I think it's a US-led thing. I don't think it's trying to be global, essentially. But it's what is design, and where are the kind of limits on what is design, because you can get, it could be getting formed by people who have done a design thinking workshop for a day. And it's more, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either, but it's more, what's the balance of what that is? So it'd be interesting to see
Have
where
you
that
seen
as a...
have you seen Offsite at all, Win? Have you something called Offsite? Have you seen that? Have you seen that, Jordan? Offsite?
Off-site.
Yeah,
Heard of it, yeah.
advanced design.
Yeah.
So advanced design is this kind of very highly Americanized thing, but the actual kind of like the output and the production value of these things are like Design Truth 8.0 type thing. I mean, it's super kind of cool what they do, but it's Offsite is a where industry in the US has just like kind of like taken control of design education. So I think it's like an 8 to 10 week program. And I was speaking to a graduate that went through the first cohort, and she was from the UK. So they kind of let her kind of, I think her body clock was all over the place when I was speaking to her. But she basically told me that in the 3 years that she did at a university here in the UK, I won't name which one, in the 8 weeks in this offsite program, she said she learnt more in the 8 weeks than she did in that 3 years. And it's like a not-for-profit organization where basically there's a selection of designers in the US. I think some of them have worked for some quite big brands like Google, and they just like teach. They have like a little cohort, and I think you have to be a little bit good to get in type thing. But maybe that's just an example of what you're alluding to there of just like taking control.
I think we mentioned that, I think in that podcast I was on, where we had a bit of a chat about design education. But like when you look at the design fees that the students are paying, and like, for example, if you've got, I don't know, 10 students paying whatever it is, $9,000 a year, and you to kind of give them, one-to-one specific tuition. I know this is a very idyllic kind of sense, but
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, there's a way of looking at these things in a different way. Semesterization, like, it's half the year is holiday, and there's ways of doing these things. Trimesterization, technical colleges, apprenticeships. Like, it feels like something quite easily could change that whole expectation of go to university. A lot of first family children going to university thinking, I've got this, I go to university, I get a job, without really having the critique of what is, where these people being employed and things going out of it. So it's, I do feel there's something happening now. I do feel that.
I think if we was to have this chat in 2-3 years' time, it might be very different in the way. But going back to the survey, so it was about 60% that said no. It was about 60% that said design isn't fit for industry. But here's the thing: within that, I think within the 40% of people that said it did fit in industry, about 65 to 70% of those people went to Loughborough. I don't know what you make of that.
I don't know.
So, like, I'll be open and honest.
That's not a disrespect to anything like Loughborough's done. That's just a very interesting kind of how, because you've gone to X university, you've got X perspective. That I just find it an interesting thing that's kind of come out of the survey.
It's very difficult. Like, for me, employed 2 graduates this year, brilliant. Coincidentally, they both come from that university, but to me, it's also a hit the ground running, and it depends on what the culture of the company that is, and you sometimes don't have time to give a lot of time to be able to develop people who potentially don't have specific. I mean, obviously, everyone needs to improve, everyone needs to develop, but and this is where I think industrial design skills sometimes, as trade skills almost, it's kind of going. You want them to come in, hit the ground running, and it's not about them, for example, rethinking the company's roadmap because that's really getting into the front end and carving out. Sometimes it can be we need more hands on deck. You need those experience of going through projects. So it's again, I don't think that sometimes is clean cut, but in terms of decision making, sometimes you want to know that someone's going to deliver.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue with industrial design. I might be shooting myself in the foot a little bit, but
we do edit it, Jordan.
Yeah,
so
yeah. If it sounds crap, edit it out.
Yeah.
No, if you look at something like medical degree or architecture, people come out of that, and I'm not saying all architects are exactly the same, but they all have a very good skill set, and not all architecture courses are the same. But with industrial design, the way people teach, things you study, it varies so widely depending which university you go to, and you get a graduate from one uni who's really good at one thing, and then one from another who's really shit at another thing. It's like, I'm not saying we should standardize it, but there should be like a minimum expectation of skill level to come out. Yeah.
What does it take to graduate? There's got to be some kind of, as you say, minimum expectation. So I mean, I've seen graduate shows where you're looking at a blue phone model and a half decent rendering, and that's the final year project. Now, I'm going to struggle to believe in that,
Yeah.
My experience of teaching in Australia, industrial design was part of the School of Architecture, and the AIA, Australian Institute of Architects, they come and accredit the course. And basically, you don't really kind of get to be called an architect unless you've got this AIA badge. But the flip side of that is, you may get, for example, a group of older, more experienced people who are not maybe as agile and as modern in thinking. So you can then get an accreditation in terms of old ways. So it's a tricky thing in terms of how that standardization can kind of work. But yeah, it's
that to me speaks of like needing that constant liaison between industry and academia, between
that's the way
we're looking for. And now, as Brad alluded to on LinkedIn, something like QShot has to be a fundamental skill, high-end computer rendering, whatever it is. But again, that's a more recent skill. A few years ago, even that probably wouldn't have been that big a deal. Maybe hand rendering, but still, you're coming back to the justification behind those choices. That's what you're looking for in the designer, is why have you chosen wood and aluminium rather than glossy black plastic? Because there's obviously going to be reasons for those, but if you can articulate that as well as define it and display it, then yeah, great, we've got someone good on our hands. That's why I think we need that constant feedback.
I've started to deal with design education a lot more since we set this thing up, and for some weird reason I'm being asked to lecture students at the minute, which has been a very interesting experience. But I think my main takeaway from it so far is that I've been a little bit disappointed with obviously I've not been going to like Loughborough Brunel, but I've been a little bit disappointed with kind of that kind of like base level of knowledge that some of the students have, not from a technical but I'm just talking about generally like things like how you apply for a job or how you put a folio together. I've been a little bit taken back by just kind of some of the things I say I find are just incredibly basic, but then I'm literally looking at a student on a Zoom call who's writing notes down like they've never heard this stuff before in their life, and it's a bit like, you should kind of know this. I'm not saying anything particularly groundbreaking, and that's been something that's been a bit of an eye-opener to me, is that I kind of feel sorry for lots of grads that are going to come through the system because they've just got no hope, and that's just me being honest. I just don't see
what Drew mentioned before about this kind of industry engagement. I mean, you look at where the spread of universities are, I can probably say there's probably definitely a design consultancy or a internal design company of a manufacturer that's probably within 20 miles. So, from that perspective, get them on board, get them as advisors. And to me, like any good design, is get as much critical feedback as possible. And if you're designing a course, get the critical feedback. It's only going to be better for everybody. And logically as well, where those companies are based relative to those universities, if those people live at home, stay local students, then they've got a nice kind of pick of local talent as well. And it's like, I think this is where something like this kind of network of people we've got here is that people are going to be spread all over the country, and people could reach out to those universities potentially.
Speaking of being spread out, aren't all three of us from North Wales? Like from
Yeah.
yeah. Like Jordan lives in Buckley. I'm from Buckley. You must have dated someone from Buckley. Lynn.
I lived in Mold for a bit.
Yeah,
There
there
you
we
go.
go.
My mum's from Mold. Yeah.
Ace.
There we go. What did you guys make of the survey out of interest? Or more so the results that you saw, or quick kind of scroll through what you saw? What did you make of it?
It was a bit. There was a lot of different opinions. I wouldn't say that like
it wasn't the greatest laid out thing in terms of what I exported to you guys.
Oh, yeah,
you can tell that I got the free version, can't you? But I mean, what did you make of what came through?
There was like a lot of contrasting opinions. There was a lot of people saying stuff's been really bad, but then there was other people saying it's been amazing. You know, everyone wasn't singing in unison, and I think that goes back to what we were saying before. Everyone's had their own experience through all this crap. Some people have done well, some people haven't done so well.
Yeah.
I think I think a lot of the comments, Jordan says that they were quite diverse. I think obviously I've seen the summarised kind of review, and the deck looks brilliant, guys. By the way, well done to whoever's put that together. Fantastic. I think the summaries of what the bandings that you've got in terms of ages, kind of postgraduate, and also the titles, they bang on in terms of kind of almost personas. And I think that's the bit that I think I'm finding quite interesting. The salaries, I totally nothing shocks me there. It's bang on. It is.
Salaries are so hard to put together. So if anyone that is listening to this when's referring to the salary guide, and by this point it will be available on the designtruth.co.uk website. So if you want to actually know if you're earning proper money, then download this PDF basically. But it's such a weird one, because you could be at one company where salaries are quite low, but then equally someone can be quite a similar in that experience bracket, but they're probably going to be earning some quite good money. So I don't want it to come across like we're kind of like dodging the question by saying, hey, you could be earning this, but you could be but that's just how it is. It just hopefully gives you an insight of kind of where you're at in terms of that.
Well, yeah, of course, like companies aren't daft. They know that if they're sourcing from local, if you're probably pre this year, people aren't going to commute very far. So there's a cost of living in that area. So it's a salary that's going to be in line with that.
Yeah.
North Wales isn't going to be as highly paid as London.
Yeah, but we wanted to try and give some context. So you might notice if you read the thing is that Cambridge is actually quite high. But let's be real here, probably 80 to 90% of jobs in Cambridge are medical jobs. So whilst it may seem like they're kind of parable to London, if you don't have any medical experience, then you're probably not going to get in, are you? So it's this kind of like, let's contextualize the numbers a little bit, rather than just saying, hey, you can earn 70k in London. But actually, there's probably reasons why you can earn that, and we try and provide a little bit of context to where you're at, and hopefully that will give some scope, particularly around kind of equal pay as well. I want to make sure that there's kind of female designers out there that are thinking, actually, you know what, I think I might be not getting paid what so and so is being paid. And
it's horrendous that we still have to have that conversation.
That's
still a thing.
Does happen, Drew. Does happen, Drew.
It surprised me so much when a couple of years ago, it came up in a conversation. I was like, that it just blew my mind. I was like, that can't be happening in this company that I'm working for. Figures that were published, an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, it does happen, but it's one of those things where it's because it's something where like it's a little bit of a taboo subject, so you only ever really realise it when you're talking to a female designer, and I'll say, okay, what kind of salary are you on at the minute? And you go,
but I think it's like,
whoa.
in terms, like I said before, kind of punking what's going on, is that the salary survey is another part of that. It's a big evil power cord that's just kind of going, let it resonate through the industry.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I will be sending that out, by the way. There's no one that's not going to be seeing that within a 50-mile radius of London.
There's no justification for that to be like clandestine information. That's just, it's anonymized, but here's what to expect. Here's the trends that we're seeing. That's stuff that if you can get hold of, you can make informed decisions. If you can't, then you're at the mercy.
Yeah,
I think, from the point of view, I think of the salary, everything, there's so many different parameters in terms of location, type of industry, your background, the company, itself may not be, maybe an agency, it may be.
I think we mentioned that. So like salaries in startups might be quite high, but let's think about, okay, do you have a pension? Do you have all these different kind of things like Bupa that you're taking? Is it a case of a lot of this is kind of going down the equity and shares route? But if the shares aren't worth anything, then they're not worth anything. So we kind of try and contextualize those things a little bit for people that are a bit like, do you earn much in-house? Do you earn more agency? That kind of. So it's not all about just the salary. Sometimes there's a lot of other things that kind of play their part.
Yeah, I think just to kind of conflict a little bit, we've mentioned like salaries in North Wales are lower than London, which obviously they are. But for me, I've always been annoyed about talking about salary because I don't think it should be a taboo subject. I think it should be pretty open. And for me, what a salary or a package, however that package should be, is it's like buying a product. You're getting value from someone. You should pay them or give them stuff equal to the value they can provide. Like age, location, doesn't matter. If they can give you that value, you should, compensate them fairly. It shouldn't be about gaslighting people and saying, "No, we just don't pay that much here," or whatever. It's simple. It's like buying a product off a shelf,
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I think it's. Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people don't realise what they're contributing. There's so many kind of obvious. I think Design Council have got these ratios of what design value brings to a company, and I think for designers trying to fight their corner in different ways, I think it's trying to get a grasp of that from the business perspective, and I think it's kind of going, well, we've done this, and I wonder why. What's been the spike in, I don't know, next year, doubling the turnover of products we've sold. I wonder why that is. And the market feedback could be, it's actually the customers find the product so much more desirable. Oh, why? And then you dig deeper into that. And that's where design kind of builds its profile, where you kind of go, oh, imagine if we didn't have that. And maybe we should invest more into it. And I think that's where the logic then becomes, from a business perspective, if it comes down to that. It's,
that willingness to kind of take that view really has to come from the top. I mean, it's great having that on the ground floor. Yeah, totally agree. Of course I do. But you can't have a design-led company if the CEO isn't into it.
And I think you've got to. I think a lot of people don't understand design.
Yeah, well, fuck it.
So, I know. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go kind of cliche on this, and we know that there are struggles there. But there's been a lot of podcasts, a lot of articles, videos on YouTube in terms of kind of design and business relationships, and people trying to express that value. Chris Doe, I'm not sure how we pronounce his surname.
The Future.
Yeah. That guy's got some really clear-cut things in terms of like that transfer of value. But yeah, I think it's all the salary things. It's a lot of it is like that shouldn't, in my opinion, be the core driver anyway. You want to know that you're being fairly compensated, and I think in these days it doesn't take 2 minutes to open a Design Truth website and look at what that fairly maybe should be. But it's a healthy conversation, I think, to have.
If someone comes to me and is like, Brad, the reason why I'm talking to you is because I want an extra zero on my paycheck, then it's a very quick conversation. It's okay, well, here's the mobile number of your hiring manager. Give them a call, find out whether they'll pay you what you're looking for. And if the answer's no, then come back to me. It's a very quick conversation. So, yeah, if it is your main driver, and I don't know if there's anything wrong with it being your main driver, but
I'd say if it's your main driver, then make it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, go and build something yourself.
Just be honest about it.
if that's what you want, the same as anything, if that's your main driver, or if you want to work with wood is your main driver, then go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to take that punt, and you might have to work 60, 70 hours a week. But if you're billing a good £35 an hour, something like that, right? Yeah, it's a whole bunch of extra work, and your Sundays are going to be taken up with expenses and with faff and receipts and all that kind of stuff. But go for it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I think if you want to make money as well, design's not very high on the list for a career to be rich.
No, that's it. Absolutely, yeah. Use that as a bridge to get to the thing that makes you money. Whatever you're interested in, if that's real estate or, I don't know, buying a set, whatever. Just cool. If you want sharp suits and a £200 haircut, go for it. You can have it. Well, it's probably not here.
It's £11 down here, Drew. So if I was to throw a question to all of you, then what's been the most positive thing out of 2020 for you? What positive takeaway? Scrap all the negative stuff. I think I'm pretty bored of hearing about it. So what's the most positive thing that's come out of this year for you guys?
For me, I think I kind of had two. I was thinking about this before. I think adoption of digital kind of countrywide has been like really, really great to see. People who are stubborn about you pay cash. No, I want to pay card. I don't think I had I think I had £20 note in my wallet, which I didn't touch for like 5 months. It was crazy. So I think that was interesting, but I think it's more than that. It's not just about payment. It's booking systems, all sorts of things around digital, but you start thinking a bit cleverer and a bit smarter. But I think the main thing for me I've worked from home for apart from about 6 weeks since March. So we went into the office for 6 weeks until this latest lockdown. And to me, it's the reflection of, I was going to say work-life balance, but I don't think it's even that. I think it's kind of how you can make both happen. So like I've had calls where I've also made lunch at the same time. And I've gone for a walk in the afternoon and had some thinking time. You know what I mean? Like it's all those things where, to me, it almost felt a little bit like doing a final year project where you've got your dissertation to do, you've got your project to do, and you just work your way around it. And so to me, whether it is a balance, but not in this kind of like, I now work 10 till 4, it's more the sense of I can do things in the day that I can do, and I might work a bit later or I might start a bit earlier, as long as the jobs get done. So to me, that's been the biggest thing for me personally, positively, is kind of going, how do I make a bit of my kind of diary work for myself in a way?
And what about you, Jordan? Because you've now entered the kind of the world of capitalism, haven't you? So
I have, yeah.
If we'd have asked you that at the start of the year, you would have said no. I'd still be contracted, I guess.
Probably if you'd have asked me that maybe a few weeks ago, I'd have said no, I'm never going to work for another company. But my new role is just amazing. So I've made the switch.
Could you tell us a little bit about the job you've got? Or
yeah, of course.
Go on. So give them a plug.
Yeah, well, it is with a company called Namene Solar, who have two parts of the business. They do kind of large solar installations, and they also do products, mainly working in Africa. So the main product is here. So it's, for those of you not watching it on YouTube, it's a little head torch with a solar panel in the back, so you can charge it in the sunlight in Africa. And then this essentially would replace kerosene lamp or other sources of light in an African family for children to walk to school and things like that. And they're also developing some awesome new products, which obviously I can't talk too much about. But yeah, the mission of the business, the people behind the business are just so good. And we talked about a main driver before, and for me, that is my main driver, to work for a business that is really trying to do some good. So yeah, that's why it was just something I couldn't turn down. But yeah, so second day in the new role as head of product and manufacturing, which is a bit fancy. But yeah.
Wow.
Super stoked about it.
Good for you. But is that the most positive thing then from the year, or is there anything else that's really kind of taking you back?
I was going to basically say what Wynn said. I feel like I'm copying his answer now, but it's that balance, and having more time to go out and exercise, or more time just to do other stuff other than just work, because I'm not commuting or running around speaking to clients. Positive thing I found is time to just reflect on what I'm doing, or when I was freelance, how I could get clients, or looking at my portfolio, or my desk setup's changed. I've got a monitor so my back isn't hurt all the time. Just time to just reflect on things has been awesome. So yeah, like Wynne said, just that extra time, whatever you do with it, has just been amazing and really good.
Yeah. What about you, Drew? Because you've had a new job this year as well.
Yeah, had a really shitty start of the year. I'm not going to muck about. Yeah, I was really glad to go and work from home because, I mean, yeah, a few changes. There was a lot of stress in the team, and it took its toll. I think we talked about that before.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So, won't dwell. But yeah, tried to work through that. And then, yeah, I was very, very fortunate. Started to get a bit pissed off and had a look on LinkedIn and saw a really just like perfect job interview of job advertisement of, we're a new company, we're looking for this type of person. If you're this type of character, give me a call or give me a direct message. I did that. Within a day, I was talking to my new CEO, and yeah, we hit it off. I've met the team once, and I started at the end of July. And yeah, I hang out I won't spin it around because you never know who's watching, right? But the corner of my living room, so I'm in an apartment, so it's all open plan, right? But I've got the typical Post-its and sketches and all of that, and you know, phone call boards all over the walls. Yeah, and I basically live in this room. Okay, so with Jordan's point, whereas I used to probably run or ride 10K each way to work every day, I now do none of that. So that's not as good. I need some wider pants, but no, that's fantastic. It works for me. I used to really like working from home anyway, and would do it as frequently as possible so that I could get a break from the office, just be able to think freely, and then when you need to be around people, you can be around people. Yeah, I think obviously a lot. Well,
I think it's interesting you're talking about how remote working has actually been a positive thing for you. But if I'd kind of loop this back to the survey, one of the big takeaways was actually about the introduction of VR being something that has actually taken off. And I wonder if we had this chat in 2 years' time, whether we'd be going even further into this by saying, well, yeah, I can still like see the person through my headset and that kind of thing. And actually, although it seems we're still in this kind of novel kind of, oh, it's a bit different, but actually probably not going to, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, I don't like to talk about working from home too much because it's kind of this narrative that we've done for the last 6 months where it's like, oh, how have you found it? And someone said, oh yeah, a lot more Zoom calls. But I think the reality now is it's that, like, it's just here to stay. Like, it's not going anywhere. This is kind of what it's going to be like. There may be people out there where certain environments or there are certain times where like we need to get you back into the studio. But I wonder if in like 2-3 years time, we're actually going to get to a place where it's almost like something you just don't talk about because it's just, this is the world we're in now.
I think it varies a lot with teams and how you're set up. So for me, in terms of product development anyway, you know, so we're, like I said, we're a very, very small company. So I don't necessarily have to share the details and zoom in on what do you think of the size of this boss. That type of thing. So the AR, the VR isn't a thing that I've bumped up against.
Yeah, but in 2-3 years time, you might have a little understudy and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, I hope I've got a Padawan or something.
Yeah, a CAD person or whatever.
Someone who's just got like a plait just down the side, but the rest is shaved because you know you don't.
One of the curiosities for me is like everyone's probably done a makeshift, either in their spare room or in their bedroom or their kitchen or wherever it is, and it's kind of been a makeshift because we didn't know how long it was going to go for. And then it's obviously kind of a bit longer. Some people go, oh, maybe I'll buy another monitor, and you start to think, okay, well, how does this affect my home living? And I think that, you know, whilst I think it was announced today, there'll be a 95% effective vaccine, which is great news and much needed. I don't think people are going to go back to the way they worked. So it's kind of going, okay, so now we've got this different thing. Like I was even thinking about before, had a couple of meetings today back to back, which were basically kind of design reviews. I was kind of going, well, I'm sat here in an office chair facing a laptop.
Wasn't an Eames chair, was it?
No, I'm not that. They're not good for office use.
Oh no, bloody hell!
Yeah,
Drew showing his Eames chair.
And from that point of view, it's kind of going like, if you're kind of reviewing work, arguably could you be on your couch, like with the TV, you know what I mean? Like my point being is that like if you're bringing work home and with people are working in a remote setting, it's kind of going, what are those activities that you do, and how do I change my home to fit these work activities now, if that's the kind of the balance that you want. And it is interesting. Like I think that's going to evolve a lot in terms of how people go forward and what they just not just make shifting here. It's kind of, you can't sit on a couch, otherwise your back's going to be in this weird curvature. So it's kind of, how do you do these things in a proper.
And what new products are going to emerge off the back of the back office experience that we're going through? Although we love Zoom, there's still a part of me that thinks this could be a lot better, couldn't it?
I mean, all of them are.
Yeah, they're actually not that great, are they? They're just kind of filling a purpose at the time.
Like for how long we've been doing Skype and all that kind of thing. Yeah, they're all a bit crap.
I saw that Slack got bought out the other day as well, didn't it? By Salesforce. So I'll be interested to see there has to be a Zoom 2.0 coming. I don't know what it's going to be, but this is What's the problem?
There's probably no designers involved.
There we go. There we go. I just thought I'd. I appreciate we're getting a little bit conscious for time and for our viewers. Well, in 40 minutes' time, Edison Cavani will be 2-0 and me and Win are going to be kind of. If I'm quiet enough, I'm probably going to hear Win shouting all the way in London. So I just wanted to, I suppose, wrap this up, and it'll probably be quite a long wrap up. But just giving people an idea and an understanding of what Design Truth could be in 2021. So we had a board meeting earlier, didn't we, Drew? It was a very unofficial.
I mean, I was bored.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Was it a board meeting, or it was a very much? I've got this idea, Win, and Drew, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And then we just kind of wrote things down, and then we thought, let's just tell people.
I'd like to think I contributed more than that.
Oh yeah. So
such a dick.
And the beauty of this is I can just edit that line out afterwards as well. So I think we've kind of alluded to this on the top of this, but I think me and Drew genuinely have been a bit kind of fascinated that people still listen to this, and are equally quite excited, but equally a little bit perplexed of where we can take Design Truth. What is it that we can do? How do we actually balance it with our day jobs? I'll be completely honest and upfront. The biggest challenge I've actually had with Design Truth this year hasn't been external. It's been very much an internal. What on earth are you doing? What's Design Truth? And as someone that's kind of, I suppose, with if I think about Kevin, you've seen this kind of actually what can happen off the back of this kind of process. I know I could say this because my boss doesn't listen to it, but it's been one of the most bizarre processes in terms of internal. People are like, well, what are you doing? So you're doing this at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not recording podcasts at 12:30 in the afternoon. It's like, really?
I think this is where you get on with the designers. Not blowing smoke up here, but you've got that kind of attitude. It's like, you go beyond, that that networking is a core part of your work, and we're enjoying being part of that network. So I think the fact you've got the can-do attitude is why you've got on well with us. And to be honest, like, I don't really know any other industrial design recruiters in the UK. So, like from a point of view of, your probably name is on the lips of everybody.
It's like family. It's like Family Fortunes, isn't it? I remember you saying that. It's like Family Fortunes of like name, and then you go to the top. And I don't want to kind of give this impression that I'm like this go-to person that you go to. There are actually some quite probably very good recruiters out there that do a good job for you. But yeah,
on that though, I mean, I don't know how they find my email because I don't actually do emails.
They find you. Don't you worry. We track you down. We know how to get hold of you. Don't worry.
And I get these emails, and I go, "Do you really think that because you just sent me an email that offering somebody at a certain rate that I'm going to take you up on it?" And to me, this is all about building proper relationships, and it's people who are going that extra mile to, you don't have to be genius to get a premium LinkedIn and go and find, if you want to work somewhere, you can go and find the person now at, a particular brand that you want to work with. You can find that design manager. You can do that.
I think the hard bit is actually the relationship bit with. I think that's the tricky bit. So companies that I work with, they could quite easily do the recruitment bit themselves in the sense of, okay, we'll just get LinkedIn, we'll advertise the jobs. But actually what they don't have the time for is they don't have the time for, I could be like, you've got a job for a head of design. I know a guy called Win. I've had a beer with him. He's a really good guy. If I drop him a text message, he'll probably respond to me. Whereas if you dropped him a text message, he doesn't know who you are. And that is the thing that I think is the elevator to, I appreciate we're going a bit off topic here, but that's just the general kind of gist, I suppose, of what it's about. But in terms of Design Truth has never been a recruitment thing. So that's been the internal battle. It's like, well, why don't you talk about recruitment? And why don't you talk about jobs? It's like, I talk about jobs from 9 o'clock to 5:30. I don't want to be talking about jobs at 7:30 on a Wednesday night. It's just like, I just don't want to do it. So go on.
But I think like one of the things is that, and there's no disrespect about it, is that like, I think some of the questions you've been asking have been quite fundamental or not a basic level. I don't mean that in any disrespect, but I think in terms of learning about the industry and asking the questions, it's been interesting because we're all listening to people's responses to those questions. And I think it's more the sense of you have, obviously a much richer kind of understanding of what an industrial design employer is looking for and also what an industrial designer is looking for. Yeah. So I think from that perspective, you've got a much richer understanding, but because of the questions that you're asking, and Andrew as well, is that's where our interest is kind of going, right,
Yeah.
And we all actually the same in different ways. So
yeah, I've never confessed to be a designer, and anyone that looks at our graphic design can certainly vouch for that. But I know what you mean, because you must talk to some recruiters and you must think they're like the star of the show, but honestly I just kind of shut up and as soon as this gets remotely technical, you'll notice that any of our podcasts, I just shut up and I just let Drew talk. that tends to be the kind of the gist. As soon as it gets to a level where I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about here, I just let Drew talk. That's
honestly, Brad, to that point, I think one of the most important questions that you keep hammering away at is this definition of an industrial designer. Now, and what does that mean on LinkedIn? Because we all see adverts. Different times you see a posting for industrial designer wanted, and it turns out it's for like I said before, it's to design bank accounts, or it's to come up with like a product designer, and it's a package thing. You're like, I have no interest in that. Like, how am I going to draw a pension? Not draw a pension, but like draw a picture of a pension.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think we've been a profession that's basically kind of obviously grown out of mechanical design, and for probably 40 years we weren't touched in terms of what we did, because we just basically packaged some technology in something that was desirable for people to use. But I think when people talk about there's people born now that are going to do jobs that don't exist currently, and you kind of go, what does this mean? But you see that specialism, and when I see kind of all the divisions of industrial design now, where you see UX and UI and industrial design.
Yeah. And I saw that Tangerine brought in a service designer quite recently, head of service design. That shows how it's changing, doesn't it? I think
Surprisingly, they didn't have that already, to be honest.
And I think that kind of that specialism almost is that it's like that's what's happening to industrial design now. And I think that, you know, you talk to someone who's been an industrial designer for probably the last 20 years, they probably go, I can do all of that in different ways. But the funny thing is, though, when you actually start speaking to these people who are quite specialised, it's a different level. I've designed some UIs. I could do some UX flows. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's... But when you start speaking to the people who now, because the universities are going for those specialisms, you go, wow, these people are on another level. And that's the interesting thing, you know, it is being split up.
To that point, I was thinking about this over the last week or so, about like jobs that industrial designers would have been a generation or two ago. Things like joiners. And I think we sort of touched upon this a while back about like, okay, if you're not necessarily academic, but you've got a problem-solving brain, what would you have done, you know, in my dad's generation? It definitely wouldn't have been this. This wasn't a thing that was there for working-class kids. And I think, all right, so some of those lines are blurred now, but, you know, things like a joiner, a luthier,
a blacksmith.
so many of them. Sorry?
A blacksmith.
A blacksmith, yes. Stonemason, something like this, yeah. Where you would have been making something from your imagination and making it real to serve a purpose.
Yeah, so
There's so many things that would have been very, very specialised, and then you go, oh, God, everything's just like injection molding now. This is bullshit.
Oh, it's all plastic, isn't it, Jordan? It's the bane of the world.
Exactly. I think on specialists and stuff, and Drew said that, you know, a joiner, UX designer, everyone who is a designer is creating something to get a result or to achieve a purpose. That's what designers do. They create something to create a purpose. A UX designer just uses different tools than a joiner does. Industrial designer uses different tools to someone else does. It's a toolkit, and I'm oversimplifying it a lot, I know, because things like UX design are so specialized. But if you can just be a really fucking good designer and know how to really think about stuff and really consider stuff, you're gonna do well in whatever you do, regardless of what toolkit you use or what piece of software you use, because that doesn't matter really. And I think going back to design education, that's something I see missed all the time, because I couldn't give a fuck if you can sketch well or use SolidWorks. Can you actually think about creating something to achieve a purpose? And I think a lot of graduates do sometimes miss that.
Yeah, cool. So it's almost like, I think in the last episode we did during it was like, we talked a lot about skill set, but every time I arrive, just keep going back to, it's actually about a mindset. And that was something they were quite keen on, like reinforcing that message. And that's the number one startup on LinkedIn at the minute, telling you that. So, I mean, that's it really. So that's what they're saying. So you just nod and agree.
Yeah, I think attitude and application of your knowledge and your skills is what sets you apart.
Yeah, cool. So,
you know, if you're looking for something, you can be a prisoner of your geography or of your training or of your predispositions, whatever they may be. If you're willing to adapt and to learn and to grow, then that makes you a force.
Good.
It's a great point, mate. It's a great
good
point.
Stuff. So yeah, just to wrap up 2021 for Design Truth, the main thing, I suppose, will be we're thinking about setting up a Patreon account, aren't we, Drew? And this is, again, I said it on the top, that this is actually Clive G's fault. So if you don't agree with this, then message hello@designtruth.co.uk and I'll certainly ping any responses across to Clive. And he just sent us a message really in the early days. I think we were like episode 3 or 4 in. He was like, do you guys have a Patreon account? I'd be quite keen to like support you guys. And I was at the start, I was a bit like, we don't at the minute, but maybe one day we'll think about it. I think our main core thing at the time was like, we just want to actually nail down like a podcast. We'll actually nail down the actual output and the content, and then anything else that happens off the back of that, we'll think about. But I think the core of it is, can we just actually make out that we can actually do the thing? Like, can we actually edit? Can we, all those kind of bits and pieces? Are people actually going to be interested over a period of time? So the Patreon, if you don't know, is like I don't know if membership is the right word, but it's almost like a GoFundMe page for content creators, basically, where you have this like, it's like a better version of tiers. So you've got tier 1, 2, and 3. It's like a better version of tier 1, 2, and 3. And you can either say, look, hey, I like what you're doing. Here's like £1 a month type thing. And on the top, I suppose what I'm quite keen to enforce is like everything, and I mean everything we do will always remain free of charge. This is almost like a side thing of like, if you actually like what we do, then we've got this thing. You can just donate a couple of quid a month, and this is where your money's going to go. So we're going to be as transparent as we possibly can be in terms of that. These are our costs. This is what actually is the cost of running this thing. So like this is our domain name. This is how much it costs. This is how much we pay for our GoDaddy, our email. This is how much we pay for our Buzzsprout, which is our podcast aggregator. This is how much a Logitech StreamCam costs, all that kind of stuff. And we're not expecting you to pay for StreamCams, but this is all of the time and the investment that we've put into this thing that you like and you're enjoying. And if we could ever get to a space where that cost is covered, that is kind of our aim of Patreon. Like anything over that, as I said, we've always set ourselves out to be not for profit. We were talking earlier, Drew, about, okay, let's just say weirdly loads of people subscribe to this thing. Where does the money go? We were talking about...
Just on a caller. Sorry. I'll show you in a minute. Sorry, Brad. I was about to burst in.
I was in full flow there. It's okay. But I was just saying, we were looking at things like, can we get in touch with secondary schools that have had their D&T money cut and say, look, we get these donations from people in industry, and we're getting like X amount of money. Do you need help with equipment, or do you need help with that side of things? We'll happily help you with that. And on the flip side,
something like a competition for sixth formers nationwide to just so take something that I'm involved in and go, right, here's CPOM, for example.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily kind of fill mine and Drew's back pocket or anything like that. No, the aim of Design Truth from the absolute get-go was we want to turn this into like a physical thing. So whilst we do appreciate we're on a Zoom call right now, I'd love for us to get to a point where we all just kind of get together and we club together and we just have a chat over a beer and that kind of thing. That is kind of where ideally I'd want things to go in terms of like that community. I don't think you can build communities virtually. I still think there needs to be that kind of seeing the whites of someone's eyes. That's for me. This is.
I mean, I think when you think about kind of the everyone was probably on a family Zoom quiz, you know. After like 12 weeks, you're kind of, okay, I've had enough of this now. And I think there's something similar in that, right? You get a kind of fatigue of video. I did at one point. I just couldn't be bothered with any more video calls, both socially and at work. But I think, you know, geographically, you know, until this year, I haven't lived in London. And I think there was a London centricity around a lot of design things. And, you know, but it's a density, it's a high density area. So logically, a lot of things happen down here. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, from a point of view of rather than me positioning something, I think surveys work well, you know, in terms of like find out, you know, in a very much a classic kind of design thinking approach. It's kind of going, well, let's ask people what they would like, what their intentions, and then I think, you know, let's potentially design something that suits what all those answers kind of come from. But
we really don't want it to come across in a way of like that kind of exploiting way of like someone's like paying £1, and if you don't pay your £1, then you're not going to listen to our podcast. It's almost like a separate kind of thing. But how Patreon works is there's like a reward based thing, tier 1 and 2 and 3, and the more you put in, we're going to give you shit back basically as like a thank you. We've had some ideas of how we can do this, and maybe we can actually start to engage with, it may be brands, it may be agencies, it may be with kind of like auxiliary partners to design. So if we could find a way where we talk to the SolidWorks resellers and we say, look, we've got an audience here of quite captive people, and we say, look, if we do some sort of collaboration and we can get like 10% off your SolidWorks license if you go through you put the checkout code Truth10 or whatever. It's things like that actually add a little bit of value to the designers in the day-to-day. So those are kind of the things that we're thinking about, Win, of like where we can kind of take things, if that makes sense. Don't know what you think about.
I'd also stress at this point that like we're spitballing ideas.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't got.
We're not at concept stage. We're certainly not at concept lock. We're at idea generation.
like a Miro workshop. You know, I know Miro's been the whole Miro, however everyone wants to call it, bloody software, but you know, to get a lot of people, you know, I've done a session with 35 people in it, so I know it works. You know, to get a brainstorm around those kind of, you know, there's some themes about what they could be. But you know, when you think about the kind of some of the core problems we've talked about, is that what you've got here is a power of this potentially is quite exciting network of connected people. And we've talked about effective design education. We all know that universities are cashed up. They are cashed up. There's no messing about with this, right? Is that like as an idea, it could be that, you know, some design truths members or whatever, you know, will give their time. You know, I would happily give a day of my time, probably a couple of my holidays to go to a local school or university and go, how can I help? And if everyone, designers has got that kind of attitude, is that, you know, if the universities would kind of happily cover design truths, sustainability, then we could do that.
I've had messages, Win, from people that come onto our webinars and say, like, Brad, if you ever do like a mentorship thing where like, and these are most of the people that you see on the call, and obviously I know Win, you're on the call all the time, and Jordan and Drew, you're on the streams and stuff. They're normally people that are in industry. They're not, we don't get too many kind of graduates to pop in. That's just because of the network that I've gained over the years. And I've always found there's that common kind of theme of what you mentioned there. It's like, if you ever like need like a thing where we all just jump on a Discord server and we've got like, we're all just come together and say like, we'll be mentors and we assign mentees type thing. That's something that people are kind of like, I get messages quite frequently about just little things like that of like, I'm happy to help, or, but it's almost like they need that kind of driving force to, and hopefully that's what we can be that force of just bringing everything together. But in ideas of keeping it on the theme of Patreon, in terms of things you may receive, now I don't know what you make of this, Win, but the day I see a Design Truth posted note on a portfolio is going to be a very good day. So we've got posted notes, we're going to get some sketchbooks and stuff. So just things that are going to help people on the day to day. So anyone that does donate any money, we're just super appreciative of it, because again, I just find the whole concept of it a bit bizarre. So again, little things like that we'll just kind of give to people. We did a giveaway. We're going to do another giveaway. This is going to make you laugh, Drew. I'm giving away some books. Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I've got Find Your Why.
Sick.
Do you know what? That's on my soon to listen to list.
Yeah, I've got 2 copies of Invisible Women, which is about how the world is designed for men. I think it's a really good eye-opening read for people. So we're always giving shit away, basically, and kind of resources and stuff out of our own pocket. So that's something we'll kind of elevate as well. But that could be Design Truth in 2021. We hope that everyone sticks around and still listens to us. And I hope you'll have a wonderful Christmas. What have you guys got planned for Christmas?
Going back to Wales.
Going back to Wales, eh?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Not opening my laptop for 2 weeks,
Nice.
and then I'm actually going to work from Wales. I think for maybe a couple of weeks as well. So potentially I've got a month back in, you know, the beautiful place in the world. So,
Jordan, Drew, what are you up to?
Well, I'm just going to chill out over Christmas. I think I've had quite a busy time, and like Wayne said, I'm going to shut my laptop and just take some time off to chill out, eat loads of chocolate, and just relax. Yeah, but not go for any pints or do anything because Wales is closed and shut down. And yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not having a 4-day bender that we're having, ever?
Not allowed, mate. I'm just showing at 6. You're not allowed to. Yeah. Crap.
What about you, Drew? What are you up to?
I'm spending as much time as possible with my girly woos. And when I'm not doing that, I'm going to try and get out and get some fresh air. But yeah, like Win says, shut my laptop, turn my mobile to fuck off, and just leave it.
I like
that. Want to get the 7-string weapon out and just murder some Soundgarden or something like that. Some Sabbath. Just do that.
About yourself, Brad?
I like Christmas because Christmas is the only time of the year where you don't feel like you're missing out on anything. So I don't know what the design equivalent is, but if you're like, if I was to go on holiday in, say, like June, if I was to go on like a 2-week holiday in June, I'll go away in June, and maybe maybe I'm trying to find some jobs for some clients, and I come back in 2 weeks' time, and I just have this feeling, it's been like programmed into me from the job that I do. It's like, I've missed out on these people that are looking for work, or I've missed out on this, and you feel like you're so behind. But there's this kind of peace of mind of going off at Christmas thinking, well, everyone else is off as well. So you can really kind of like shut down. And I'm pretty bad for kind of, if I go off like in the middle of the year, work is always like ticking over. It's not that I'm never really completely shut off from it. Even when I went traveling for a bit and things, I went to go and see companies over there. It wasn't like I was ever really kind of like detached from it. It's almost like it becomes your life. So yeah, that Christmas will just be the one time that I just don't have the laptop on, and I can just play Football Manager in peace. Really, that's kind of
that's it. Like,
that's just like
as
that's
they say on
life.
Community, it's all about fake murdering people on video games.
Exactly. Yeah, I could just play my Xbox in peace. You've
got the new Xbox, haven't you?
I do have the new Xbox. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful bit of kit.
Is it basically the old one but faster?
It's faster, yeah, but you can only store like 2 games on it, because like every game now is like 110 gigabyte or something stupid. That I'd recommend you buy some storage, people. If you're getting it for your kids for Christmas, get some extra storage. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there, shall we? I mean, have a great Christmas. Yeah. I won't ask you like embarrassing questions like what's your favourite Christmas song, or what's
it's the Ronettes. It's I'm not going to sing it. I took a breath then. I'm going to sing it.
Do it, mate. Do it.
Go on, Drew.
The moment's gone.
Okay. Mine's Leona Lewis, so I don't know if that's even worse.
Ooh, that's terrible, mate.
One More Sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That's
mine's Step Into Christmas by Elton John. Love it.
Love it.
Right,
Go on, close it off, Win. What's the favourite one?
Mine's Mike Flowers' Wonderwall.
And what do you get? So
better than the original. It's better than the original.
What would you get your designer mates for Secret Santa?
I've actually got that challenge this week.
Oh God, what are you thinking?
I don't know. Well, it's actually Secret Santa between everybody, and I've got. It depends if he's listening, but I've got one of the mechanical design engineers.
Posted notes? No, design trip posted notes? No.
So yeah, I don't know. I've got a £10 limit, so I'll just kind of look at Amazon.
Let's get a black T-shirt, mate.
If it's a mechanical, then a Staedtler clicky pencil, mechanical pencil.
Yeah.
Otherwise, paper medium. You don't.
All day.
Yeah.
Maybe a plaster for their horn ring glasses.
So cool. Well, look, thanks for coming on, guys. And
as
I said to you off air, I hope this didn't come across as like a really weird episode of Loose Women. But
I don't know, maybe it did.
Maybe it did. Yeah, it's quite nice to film.
Reflection, it did.
Yeah, it probably did. Yeah, it's quite nice to film this, Drew, because some of the guests we've had on quite recently, we don't kind of know that well, or it's a bit of you have to like put a bit of a face on, or a bit of but this actually felt like we were kind of just having a chat. Whereas sometimes, quite recently, it's been a bit like, tell us about what you've been doing and all that kind of stuff. And like, there's only so many times you can have those conversations. Look forward to seeing you with Design Truth posted notes quite soon, with your Design Truth black T-shirt as well. I look forward to sending that out to you guys. And if I don't speak to you before then, obviously have a good Christmas. And maybe
I'd like to reiterate again, Brad, that thanks very much to both of you on behalf of, I suppose, all product designers listening
in the world,
everywhere. It's great. It's great. Long may it continue. So thank you for all your hard work, all your extra hours you're putting in to do this. You've got a few pints lined up when you meet us all physically.
Yeah, I look forward to that. And thank you to our one listener in Bolivia as well. I don't know who you are. One day we will meet. One day.
If there's anything that comes to mind, appreciate it. Anything you have spare. Surplus off.
And you know what's really weird, Drew, is that we've got a really weird listenership in Austria. If you Austria is a place where we are always. I have no idea what.
Shrimp on the barbie.
Austria, not Australia. Austria.
I know you've not seen the start of Dumb and Dumber, have you?
That's gone. But yeah, we're always like really like high on the charts in Austria. I don't know if you've got any friends in Austria, Drew. I don't have any, but Austria.
Everyone for Christmas.
Yeah,
Got a friend who grew up in Austria.
is it just him listening to it on repeat? Is it or
No, he's in Liverpool now.
But yeah, if we ever go on tour,
Strangest accent you've ever heard.
Design Truth,
Scouse and Austrian.
Yeah, Design Truth could be live in Vienna and then live in Bolivia. But yeah, I'll let you guys go, particularly Jordan, because he nearly had an intruder halfway through.
Oh no,
Yeah, I can hear the girls making noise upstairs, so I've got to go.
Right, and best of luck with the game win.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the lineup.
Go on,
lineup.
What's it? Cavani starting?
I'm out.
He's starting. Well,
yeah.
If it all goes Pete time, I'm certainly going to edit this out. If Neymar puts 3 past us, but stay strong, win for the next hour and a half, and I'll see you guys. If I don't see you this year, I'll certainly see you guys next year. And Drew, I'm sure I'll speak to you soon.
See you in the next round.
Cheers, guys.